Thanks, guys, for coming. Like Tim said, Simply Wild is my practice that I'm not officially open, but opening. I'm still meeting with clients. In Carroll, we have herbs that clients can buy off the shelf, and I do some consultation with herbal stuff, body talk, emotional resolution is something else I do, and then kinesiology. And then we have infrared sauna and ionic foot detox, EMF mat, and yeah, I think that's it. Just some different things to help people on their health journey. I love working with clients. Like Tim said, I am a master herbalist from the School of Natural Healing. Was created by Dr. Christopher, who was leading herbalist when he was alive a couple of decades ago, still being carried on, still products, and they do a great job educating people. I'm also studied kinesiology, still working on that, studying that. Emotional resolution is just, like it says, it's a way to resolve emotions that kind of get in the way of life. And then I do body talk. So my approach is to address the whole person, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And I seem to get good results that way instead of just, dealing with one thing like the physical. So we will cover stress tonight and how it affects our body and what we can do about it. I have some of the hormones that are released, the adrenaline, the noradrenaline, and the cortisol. And those are good hormones to have when you're under stress because it makes you act and respond. Like, we should respond to stress. If a car is coming at us, we don't want to just sit there, right? So these hormones help us to respond appropriately. But when we experience stress too much or when we don't recover from it, then our bodies can really take a hit. So it can affect our respiratory system. The cortisol release affects our immune system, makes us more susceptible to infections, creates inflammatory response. The news has done a pretty good job lately about talking about how inflammation in the body is, one of the bigger killers than what doctors had originally thought. So we're doing better at addressing that and helping people to be aware of that. So that's good. Some of that inflammation simply comes from feeling the stress that we do in everyday life. It also affects our endocrine system. So blood sugar, like pancreas, people who have diabetes, they have to watch that, especially when they are under a lot of stress for that reason. So there's typically 3 kinds of stress. The acute stress is short term. You're running late for work, or car comes and you don't see them. That's just in the moment. It gets resolved. Life goes on. Episodic is more frequent, kind of if you chronically sleep over and you're chronically late for work, you're stressed every single morning. And then your chronic stress, the grinding stress that wears on you, leads to mental breakdown, leads to decline in your health, leads to the emotional, like not being able to deal with the emotions. It can come from ongoing issues, like some of them I listed: poverty, unhealthy relationships, or jobs that you don't like to be in. We already talked about that. So chronic stress can damage our blood vessels and our arteries. Robin and I were talking before about purifying the blood, the heart, kind of those things. And stress, because of that cortisol that is released, it kind of creates scar tissue in a way in your arteries. So chronic stress that's why it leads to hypertension, increases heart attack or stroke. It can lead to weight gain because of how it affects your hormones and make you age faster and then create more inflammation in your body. So episodic stress, nervous energy, rushing or running late, like, you know, somebody who's like really nervous, they're always fidgeting, like, you know, have to be doing something, have to be on the go. They're typically suffering from episodic stress. So we'll talk about a few herbs that can help. I'll go into some of these a little more in depth. Ashwagandha is kind of my favorite stress herb. It's one that is pretty, it's pretty gentle and safe enough that you can take it long term, like every day. That's kind of my go-to. If somebody says, I'm really feeling stressed, well, have you heard of ashwagandha? You know, it comes in, you can take it as a tea, you can get it in capsules, you can find it in a lot of different forms to where you can take it. And then there's Tulsi or holy basil. So my favorite form of this is tea. Like Tulsi tea is a brand, and they have all kinds of flavors that they add into it. It is really good too for long-term stress. You know, you can take it every day. It's pretty mild. Valerian is a little bit stronger. You tend to want to take that at night because it will make you sleepier. Tends to make people sleepy. I don't encourage people to take that long term without a break. Like you take it 6 weeks, take a 2-week break off of it, just because it is a little bit stronger. And then passion flower is another good one. It's pretty calming, pretty relaxing. You know, you can have a cup of passion flower tea at the end of the day. That's really good to do. Skullcap, I kind of put that in the category of valerian. And then you have lemon balm and ginseng. So ginseng is something that we hear quite a lot about. It can work both as to give you energy, but it helps to fight stress. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's look at ashwagandha. So the reason that I encourage people to use this herb is because it decreases cortisol. So that's your main stress hormone that people have. That's kind of the one that pulses through your vein. You may or may not notice it as much as the norepinephrine, So ashwagandha can reduce depression, can reduce stress, anxiety. So it helps the thyroid a lot. If you have issues with your thyroid, this is a good one to take. It stabilizes your blood sugar, and it can boost your immune system. So this one is really good for adrenal fatigue. If you are under stress for a long period of time, you likely suffer from adrenal fatigue, and this will help to balance your adrenals back out to make them so they don't produce so much cortisol, and then just support them. Tulsi, so it reduces the effects of stress. It also supports the immune system. This is a really good herb to take, like if you have a cold, flu, if you're getting sick, you know, have this on hand in the winter time. Can help with your immune system. So this one will also lower your cholesterol, and it will support your adrenal glands as well. So your adrenal glands are pretty important to take care of because they help you to deal with stress well. Valerian, like I said, it's a good sleep aid to take it at night. Very calming, kind of a mild sedative. If you have tense muscles, if that's where your stress is, if you feel it in your shoulders or your neck, then valerian's a good one to take. It encourages your GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter, and your body should produce enough of it where it's kind of your feel-good neurotransmitter. So this helps your body to release more of that, and it will also increase your immune strength. And then ginseng, we know, a little more common. It is one of the herbs that we hear about more often. I don't know, I kind of hear more of it like giving you energy, which it does, but it helps to regulate your immune system. It helps to regulate those stress hormones, so it does rejuvenate. So kind of if you have a stressful day at work, you know, lunchtime, it might be good to take some ginseng to help you get through the rest of the day and deal with stress for the rest of the day. Or if you know you have a stressful day coming up, to take it in the morning. So it regulates your biorhythms, like your appetite, your blood pressure, your sleep, helps to regulate your sleep so you don't wake up in the middle of the night, your hydration. If you're under stress, even if you drink plenty of water, your cells may not absorb them like it should. And so ginseng can help those cells to open up and take in the water. So that's, like, people say, well, I drink plenty of water, but they may not realize if their cells are able to absorb that water. So both parts are important, to drink enough and then to have your cells functioning the way that they should. It helps to fight depression and anxiety, both which happen when you're under a lot of chronic stress for long periods of time. So then I also always encourage people, like, no matter what your health concern is, you want to drink plenty of pure water. Avoid the tap water. You want to drink half your weight in ounces, like your body weight. So if you weighed 150 pounds, you drink 75 ounces a day. That's kind of a good marker of just the minimum. Like, minimum, you should drink half your body weight. You want to look at your whole foods. So whatever foods were in the state where you got them. Avoid the processing, like avoid canned vegetables, canned fruit. Try to get the fresh if you can. Second best would be frozen fruits and vegetables. And then especially with your carbohydrates, with your grains, watching how they're processed, because they tend to be processed more. So your breads, like the wheat, they take out the wheat germ oil a lot of times. And that wheat germ oil has your vitamin E in it. So you want to try and find foods as whole as possible, or make things from scratch as much as possible. And then avoid processed foods and sugars. So like prepackaged things are usually pretty processed. Sugary drinks are pretty easy to come by. All of those things take a hit on your immune system. They can create more stress for your body. Plus, it doesn't give your body the fuel that it needs to function like it should. Then just a healthy lifestyle, to move your body, exercise, walk, be up on your feet, doing things. Do things to find joy. Like, this has been something the last 2 years that I have worked with clients more than anything, is just the lack of joy and how that's affecting their life. So, take a moment and think, what brings you joy? Is it spending time with your family? Is it watching a sunset, sunrise? Is it being out in nature? And trying to cultivate that, like get that into your life. Just those moments are very important to your health. They're important to dealing with stress, and they're important to your immune system as well. And then creating healthy relationships, open communication, whatever you need to do to figure out how to have healthy relationship. There's tons of books available. And then getting out in nature is important because of oxygen. And I think you talked about who was the lady that did forest bathing?
And Dr. Bartlett?
Yeah, Dr. Bartlett. Yeah. So there's a lot of studies on being out in nature and how that benefits your body. So just went through a quick overview because I wanted to give you guys as much time as possible for questions. Like, it can be about stress, or if you have questions about other things, I'd be happy to answer whatever you have.
I had a question about the ginseng. So ginseng is, I thought ginseng was discouraged if you have blood pressure issues, but it's not.
If you have blood pressure issues, like if you have high blood pressure, it can help with high blood pressure because it helps to increase circulation. So that may be something just to monitor, like how does it interact with your body? And like no matter what you take, herbs are generally safe, but you need to know your body and how do things interact with your body, because it may not be what you need. But it can increase your circulation. It can help purify your blood. So if you have blood pressure issues, it may be good, but watch it. Anyone else have
I got a
more
question for you.
questions?
Talk a little bit, Marissa, about, people sometimes talk about herbs like they're afraid of herbs, like they've heard the interaction of herbs with their body or with their medication. We get those questions about the herbal cleanser that we have.
Yeah,
Is it safe? Can I take it with this medication?
yeah.
So is that just simply something, again, regulating yourself, paying attention to?
Yeah. I always encourage my clients to start listening to your body, because your body will give you cues on what you need and what you don't need. When I meet with clients, I do have a physician's desk reference and how it interacts with natural supplements, especially herbs, so I can check those things and see what it says if there's anything to be concerned about. But yeah, it's watch your body, pay attention, and gradually learn the difference between what your body feels like when it's detoxing and when it's interacting poorly with something, because herbs will help your body detox, which is good because we want to get rid of toxins as much as we possibly can. Like, we want to create this cycle in our body where we're putting good foods in and getting toxins out. That should just be a rhythm of life. And sometimes getting rid of those toxins can feel kind of crummy, especially if you're not drinking enough water, or if you're not getting enough sleep, or if you're overly stressed. And so paying attention and learning those cues, like really learn to listen to your body, learn to pay attention to it. And your body's pretty amazing at communicating what you need, and we're pretty good as a society at ignoring it. So
what are those cues of detox versus a problem?
I think it's better to see over time. Like detox, you might feel like you have the flu, but it will be short. It'll be like a 24-hour flu is typically the detox die-off is what they call it.
Kind of anything you're doing.
Yeah, kind of anything that you're doing. So even with like the ionic foot bath that I have, if somebody comes in and if they have a very large toxic overload, like I do what I can to gradually help them detox. But sometimes there's just that health crisis where they need to have a big detox release, feel crummy for a day or two, and then they should start improving. But, like Robin mentioned with blood pressure, if that's an issue, monitor your blood pressure, because that should not be a detox effect. Like, you shouldn't have high blood pressure or low blood pressure. Typically, you feel like you have the flu, or you're tired, or crabby, irritable.
So with the ionic foot bath, I've used that before, and it's like, oh, really nasty. So like how long, like, do you keep using it and it actually gets lighter and
Yep.
not so icky?
Yeah. So all of the
Detox.
stuff that I encourage people to use, the foot detox or the herbs, like you should get better. It shouldn't be something that you should have to do forever unless you really are very, very sick. But most things are, let's take this for a while and then let's see how you do. And it may take a long time because some people don't do anything about their health until 50, 60 years old, and then you have 5 or 6 decades worth of detoxifying to do. So it may take longer, but eventually you should get to a state of health where you don't have to do it as much. It could just be a maintenance thing, like, once a month you do a foot detox, or maybe once a week you take this herb or that herb to help, just support your body. And thinking about herbs as food more than supplements, like you eat every day, unless you're fasting, right? So think of herbs as food. What am I going to eat today? What does my body need? What does my liver need? What do my adrenals need today? And just like you will give your stomach the food that it needs, how can you feed the rest of your body? So thinking of herbs differently in that way is helpful. It's not like it's a supplement. It's not like it's, well, every week I need to go do a foot detox.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to tweak that.
Yeah.
Differently.
And then it makes it kind of fun as you start preparing more of your own foods. Like, what can you incorporate for herbs? How can you cook with it to make a new dish? So it kind of makes it fun that way, and just making that a normal part of life. Yes, I'm going to add basil to this, but what else does basil do? What does oregano do?
Is the holy basil up there as a supplement is not the same thing as basil?
Yep, so this holy basil is different than what the basil you cook with.
Right.
Yeah. Holy basil has a little sweeter taste to it. I suppose you could cook with it, but it's not as strong flavoring as basil leaves are.
I've got some tinctures
Mhm.
from a few years back.
Yeah.
In little glass jars. How long, it doesn't have an expiration date.
So tinctures kind of last forever.
I was wondering, it's like, do you throw them away, or it's like some
Yeah.
of the things you're talking about?
When I went through school, that was one of the questions that was asked, and we were told, well, we tested the tinctures that were 10 years old, and they had as much medicinal strength as a fresh batch. So the alcohol or the glycerin preserve it so well, and especially if it's in a darker glass, yep. Keep it out of the sunlight, keep it from extreme heat, and it'll be good for a long time.
And then, I don't remember, how many drops or what, or anything. They just look online and it's close, probably right, or what?
What are they tinctures of?
I don't know, I might have holy basil, and I might, some of these other ones, maybe, I don't know.
So tinctures are more concentrated, which is kind of nice if you're traveling somewhere to make up some tinctures or buy some tinctures, so then you don't have to have a big bulk of herbs with you. It's concentrated, and then you just need a couple of drops. 2 to 3 drops is usually good. So kind of nice that way. Yeah.
Have you noticed that some of these, or just with your clients, things work better if you have them in combination? If you have like 2, 3, 4, rather than just taking one, do they seem to
Yeah.
work better?
So ashwagandha seems to be pretty good by itself. That's one that I usually recommend by itself. But like valerian and skullcap, so I didn't go into that one, but valerian and skullcap, I mix those two up. I like them in a combination. And then sometimes I'll mix in, like, lobelia is a good carrier herb, and it just helps it to get through the body better. So I tend to put a little bit of lobelia in most of my combinations because of how it makes it spread throughout the body, makes the body be able to use it better. So yeah, sometimes combinations are good. Ginseng is another one that's good by itself. The holy basil, like if you buy the holy basil tea, that brand always mixes something else. So they'll do a turmeric for anti-inflammatory, they'll do a holy basil lavender for more relaxation. So you can kind of get some different benefits that way.
Is Tulsi okay alone?
Yeah, Tulsi is okay. And it doesn't taste too bad. Like if you did it as a tea, it it's pretty good that way. And this one it's mild. You can take it for long periods of time. Some of the herbs that, like if I have somebody that has a lot of stress, a lot of chronic stress, panic attacks, things like that, I'll mix up or recommend. Dr. Christopher has an herbal combination that has 6 different herbs in it for stress. So it's just a little more potent and kind of all-encompassing. Works out well that way. So there's kind of a lot of options for everybody. You can find what works for you. You can find what your body needs. Try some different things. And that's the other thing with herbs. Like if you take something and it doesn't work, like don't brush off herbs altogether that they don't work. Just look at it as, well, that's not what my body needed. Okay, let's try something else. Because there's a lot of options, and they're generally, you don't have side effects. They generally don't interact with medication very much. So it's a kind of a safe way to start feeding your body while helping it detoxify. Yeah.
Quality-wise, so if they're not getting stuff through you, because I mean, you might get stuff because you're certified in what you do, but
Yeah.
if someone, wants to get something somewhere, is there stores that you like better, there brands that you like better? Because I know quality can be a huge issue with herbs and supplements, so.
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
So Dr. Christopher does do the Holistic Botanicals is the overall company. They do sell single herbs, and Star West Botanicals is another one that I use. Both of the companies do a lot of purity testing, and then they also test for like molds and pesticides and other things like that. So then you know that they're pure. If you don't get that, then you may take herbs and then get pesticide poisoning, in the process of it, or mold toxicity in the process of it, and that kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. So it is important to find something that is pure and just ask the company, what kind of testing do you do for purity? How do you know? Like, how important is it? And most of them, if they're reputable companies, will give you their big spiel because they are very proud of how much effort goes into their relationship with their suppliers and knowing their suppliers plus testing. So they're usually very upfront about it. And both of those companies are companies that I use to supply herbs into my store. So the bulk herbs, that's where I get them from.
What is the greatest myths that people have around herbalism? Being an herbalist, what do you run into?
That herbs aren't that powerful.
Gotcha.
That they're not that effective.
Just a plant. I mean, it's just a
Yeah, it's just a plant.
plant.
Yeah.
And are they, do you have to take a lot for a long time, versus, I don't know, like, is it worth the effort kind of thing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So it's always worth the effort. Like, that's my big sales pitch. Like, it's always worth the effort. Your health is always worth the effort. The other side of that is do what you can, because if you get overwhelmed by it, it's not very helpful. Yeah. So if all you can do this week, and if that's all you can do next week, do that. And in a couple of weeks, that's going to be normal, and you can add something else. Don't look at becoming more healthy as this big, overwhelming, daunting thing, because it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be. Like, your body needs to heal and detox slowly so that it doesn't create some sort of health crisis. So take it slowly You know, you wouldn't go run a marathon if you've never trained for it.
And how do you get rid of inflammation and health and all that stuff?
Yeah, turmeric, ginger, both of those are really good for inflammation. Also, decreasing processed foods, especially decreasing sugar. Sugar is so inflammatory. Like your artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, those are very inflammatory as well. And then it's a matter of knowing your body. Like a lot of people don't handle nightshades, like your tomatoes and your peppers. Those can be inflammatory foods. So you may have to back off of those, cut those out. With the amount of gluten Americans have in their diet, gluten tends to be a really inflammatory thing. So cutting that back or cutting that out. Dairy can be pretty inflammatory. So just watching those foods and how do they interact with your body. And especially as you age, some of those things are going to be harder for your body to digest, and they're just going to create more inflammation. So,
Do you have an herb, Marissa, that you recommend for like cravings, for like sugar? And you know, that's one of the things that our essential fatty acids do. It's where people, they start taking it immediately, they don't have cravings anymore for
Yeah.
carbs and sugar.
yeah,
We hear that more than any else the first month or so.
yeah.
Is there herbs that you recommend for cravings and things?
Usually when somebody tells me they're craving sugar,
Yeah.
I ask them where they can find joy.
Ah,
I go to the emotional part of that
okay.
because I find that sugar cravings, it releases those happy hormones in your brain, right?
It does.
And if you can create those somewhere else where they should be created, then you don't need to fill them. So where do you lack joy?
Yeah.
What are the sweet moments in life that you're not savoring? And going from an emotional standpoint, like I almost always go from an emotional standpoint with sugar cravings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool.
But then the adrenals, like dealing with your adrenals, supporting those, that will help with sugar cravings too, because that your body's trying to get that energy. You know, stress, chronic stress is pretty depleting. It gets exhausting. And so if you can feed your body what it needs to deal with the stress, then you don't have to have the sugar to supplement.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm reading Dr. Lustig's book, Metabolical, and his theme is protect the liver, feed the gut.
Yeah.
So, never heard that before. The solution to our healthcare problem is real food,
Yeah.
which is, it's almost too simple to, you know what I mean? It's like the answer to our problems with our chronic illnesses, real food.
Yeah.
But real food isn't real simple for some people. I mean, it's, the grocery stores don't always have real food.
No, they don't.
So,
People don't know what real food is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty hard sometimes to eat well, to give your body what it needs. I think if you incorporate it slowly and it just becomes part of life, then it's easier.
yeah, I think that's key. It's just, it becomes part of life. And real food is available. And when you learn how to find it,
Yeah,
then it's much easier.
yeah. And it's kind of whatever you feed yourself. Like, I got a good chuckle. My daughter was 10, and somebody brought Little Debbie snacks to church, and they handed her one, and she's like, what is that? Like, you know, every kid in America knows what a Little Debbie snack is, right? No, it's just, that's life. Like, that's life for us, is that we don't have Little Debbie snacks. You know, it's life for us that you walk out of the door of our house, you take a water bottle with you. So making those part of life, it takes a little while to build new habits. But once they become habits, then you don't have to think about them. It's not work anymore.
Right.
It's just life. So keeping that mindset in mind, like what life are you trying to create? You know, what are you trying to create for yourself? If you could see yourself in 10 years, in 5 years, what do you want your life to look like? You know, do you want to be stressed out and relying on medication and drinking coffee to cope through the day and eating sugar to cope later in the day? Or do you want to figure out, how am I going to live a healthy lifestyle? Like, you know, am I getting the water that I need? Am I getting the sunshine that I need? Keeping that big picture in mind. Yeah. It's not easy, but it's always worth it.
It is.
And I think once you get into it more, you find a different group of people where that's their normal too. And it's a little easier for that to be your normal.
Talk a little bit about kinesiology in relationship to your practice. How do you use kinesiology?
Yeah.
And then you might want to explain kinesiology. I assume everybody knows what it is.
Okay, so applied kinesiology uses muscle testing and different muscles, like this muscle, that muscle, those are all different muscles. They correspond with different organs in your body. And when a muscle is weak, that says, well, something's out of balance. It could be that that muscle is weak. It could be that that organ is weak. So using acupressure, pressure points to help balance that out can help bring balance to the body. So I had gotten introduced to kinesiology when we moved back to Iowa about 20 years ago. My chiropractor did it, and that just became the norm for life. So we get sick with a cold or something, we go to the chiropractor. He figures out which muscles are out of balance, which organs are out of balance. He balances them, and then that helps the body to, you know, get the immune system working correctly, get rid of toxins, whatever is getting the body, whatever has gotten the body out of balance, that helps it to get it back into balance. So I use it with emotional things. I use it with physical things. Can use it with, right now I'm studying energy kinesiology. So it's more like your chakras, areas of your body, just kind of how the energy flows through your body. I don't know if you guys have ever seen meridian charts where like your stomach meridian goes up one way, your heart meridian goes down another way. It's all pretty fascinating stuff, and it kind of sounds kind of woo-woo out there, but when you see how it interacts with the body and you see how a muscle tests weak, and then you find the pressure points, massage those, hold those, and then the muscle tests strong, and then a day or two later, there's health restored back to the body. You know, it's not an overnight, like it doesn't happen right away. It tends to be a slower process, but it tends to be a more thorough process, if that makes sense. You know, it's not a quick Band-Aid fix, but it gets to the root of what's going on inside of the body. And so Body Talk incorporates applied kinesiology. They use muscle testing, and then they use some of the pressure points that we use with kinesiology as well. But I found those two things work pretty well for people. Can help relieve, like if you've had chronic tense muscles, can help relieve that. If you've had chronic weak muscles or like trouble with joints. So applied kinesiology helps quite a bit.
question about the herbs, is the ashwagandha, is that in tea form or how?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, you can get that one in tea form. That one tastes pretty good. The top two, ashwagandha, tulsi, passion flower, lemon balm, those all taste pretty good for tea formula. The valerian can kind of be strong, and so can the skullcap, just because they're both nervines, so they are mild sedatives. So some people tend to not like those as much because they are stronger. Ginseng is okay as a tea as well. It's not too bad. But you can find these as tinctures or in capsules. And I think all three formulas, if you drink it as a tea or take it as a tincture or take it in capsules, all three formulas are really effective. I have a valerian tincture that I keep beside my bed and wake up in the middle of the night. If I do a couple of drops of those, and it usually puts me back to sleep pretty fast. And
Oh, that's nice.
so that one's pretty nice.
Is that one of your teachers?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to be open on Saturdays?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'll be open Saturday mornings.
Okay.
What do you suggest for not getting to sleep?
If you can't go to sleep, like if you can't wind down at the end of the day, valerian is good, and skullcap, or a combination of both of those. We're doing like a cup of passion flower tea. That would help as well. Are you a tea drinker?
Not really.
Not really. So probably doing a tincture of valerian and skullcap combination would be good. Start like an hour before bedtime
Okay.
and kind of knock you out, put you to sleep. Yeah. Yeah. And then looking at like, why is it that you can't go to sleep? Is it just racing brain or?
Does it
Combination.
become less effective as you use it?
I have not
No.
seen anything like that. I've not read anything about it becoming less effective. But with everything, you take a break from it. Yeah.
Like racing brain and combination of cortisol and post-traumatic stress and combination
Yeah.
of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know. And sometimes it's just racing brain, excited about something.
Yeah.
But I'm used to not sleeping because of post-traumatic stress and then the other stuff. Well, gotta think about something because I'm not thinking about that anymore.
Yeah. Have you ever done any body talk with that? So body talk is super helpful with balancing the body as well on a more internal level. Like post-traumatic stress, it's really helpful for that. And then there's a technique called cortices and unswitching. That's how I put my 8-year-old hyperactive son to sleep most nights. Like I run through cortices and unswitching, and he's out like that. So it just calms the brain down. And when you get switched, it's when your brain, like, it's like playing ping pong in your head. Overwhelmed if you've stared at a screen too long, if you've been driving too long, if you've had like too much noise, like sensory stuff input, your brain plays ping pong.
Yeah, and I get exhausted,
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's fun or not fun, if there's a lot of sensory stuff, then I'm like draining forever.
Yeah.
But then I can't sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would suggest trying some body talk and learning to do cortices and then switching and then trying the valerian and the skullcap combination just to help shut your brain down, calm down. You need to get your body out of that fight and flight mindset that you are safe, nothing's going to harm you, you don't need to live So kind of a
It's
reprogramming.
interesting Because I did the EMDR,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
is
Yes.
having your brain go like that.
Yeah.
You know, and then now I'm not sleeping because, oh, I'm thinking about some trip I want to go on or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's still, it's kind
Have you tried the EMDR when you feel that way at night?
of, no,
Okay.
just kind of on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way that EMDR works is when you experience something stressful or traumatic, it's like it gets stuck in one part of your brain. So if you saw a horrific car accident and it was right here, it would be just this big ball of stress. What your brain and your body's designed to do is to break apart stressful moments and kind of make them not so stressful right here, but put a little here, put a little there. Like that's kind of, yeah, kind of move it around, kind of breaks it apart, and then it's not stressful. So the way that EMDR works with that is moving your eyes back and forth moves your brain back and forth, like the neurons. It stimulates the neurons back and forth, and that helps to disperse it. So if you're feeling stressed at night, taking your eyes back and forth and doing the EMDR may help to break that apart and feeling less stressed. So if that's something that you've done and you're familiar with, I would use it.
Yeah, I've done it with therapy and they did like a little noise thing.
Yeah,
I think it was
yeah,
before.
yeah,
It's very effective.
yeah. I've even used EMDR for things as simple as an annoying song that got stuck in my head and I couldn't get it out. So then I did the EMDR with the eyes back and forth, and it helped. It worked amazingly.
Like things that you're like, just kind of going in circles.
Yep.
Thinking about stuff. It's
Replaying conversations that you've had.
whatever. they
Yep.
do to-
Yep. I would use that to your advantage since you know how to do that. And you don't have to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, just the moving your eyes back and forth is an amazing thing for your brain and dispersing stress, memories that get stuck. Yeah, brain science is pretty fun.
Yeah.
That's kind of my pet hobby.
Do any of these things help get rid of like pain, back pain, or kind of?
Ginseng can help with
Touch your
pain.
body and every place you touch it, it seems to hurt.
Yeah, ginseng is good, can help with pain. Valerian is a very good muscle relaxer. So if everything in your body hurts, it could be cortisol level, adrenal fatigue. So then going to your ashwagandha is really good for that. And just supporting your adrenals will help get your cortisol level down. You may just be feeling the cortisol, like there's so much in your system. Yeah,
And just keep trying to lower the level of
Yep.
cortisol.
yep. And another good thing to do if that's what if you are experiencing adrenal fatigue, is to consume more of your carbohydrates later in the day, because it'll change your hormone cycle. So eat your proteins in the morning. Maybe have one serving of carbohydrate at lunchtime, maybe another one at supper time, and maybe something just before bed. So it's called the adrenal reset diet. It works really, really well for supporting your adrenals if you're in that fight and flight state where you just can't get out of it because of post-traumatic stress or, something. So that's something else good to do to support your adrenals.
Okay.
Yeah. You can find that pretty easily. I can't think of the author off the top of my head, but he wrote a book, Adrenal Reset Diet. But that's the gist of the diet is more carbohydrates at night, less in the morning. when I was super stressful time period at night, my life, I'd do a glass of cereal before bed, like
A glass of what?
cereal before bed, like
Oh.
muesli cereal, and then I'd do eggs in the morning. So it helped a lot. I don't have to do it anymore. So I'll take herbs for my adrenal glands when I have a stressful week, but I don't do it every day because I was able to get my body back into balance that way. So.
What about like massages and different things, like, I don't know, pressure point massages, anything like that? Does that help a lot or not?
It can, yeah. Consume a lot of water with it because it flushes toxins out of your tissues. It may create more pain at first, but as you get lymphatic going, muscle circulation, the blood through your muscles circulating, that pain should decrease. Is it more like fibromyalgia, or is it just adrenal? Yeah. Fibromyalgia tends to be more of autoimmune.
Yeah, I mean, allergies and different immune things.
Yeah.
Minor, but.
Yeah. I would start with dealing with your adrenals. Most people's adrenals are pretty forgiving. As soon as you start taking care of them, they tend to get back into balance pretty easily. If you are continuing to live a stressful life, like if you're out of the stress and your body just hasn't moved out of that stress, then supporting your adrenals is good. If you're continuing to live a stressful life, then maybe some different lifestyle choices as part of that will be needed. Yeah, I know that's something a lot of nurses experience if they've been in the nursing field for a long period of time. Adrenal fatigue is very common with nurses. Medical field, especially emergency work. So.
What would be one or two herbs you would suggest, say you don't really have an issue that you know of, to put in your smoothie every morning?
Put in your smoothie every morning. Okay. I would probably do stuff for your liver. Like, I always tell people to take care of your liver, like what Tim mentioned with the book. Your liver is your number one detoxer of your body. So like dandelion would go okay in a smoothie. It's a little bitter, but it'll help your liver to detoxify any toxins it's holding on to. It helps to regulate your hormones, it helps to regulate blood sugar because all of that, those extra things are stored in your liver. So then if your liver can get rid of them, then all of that other stuff is more balanced. So that would be a good one, is dandelion. And then if you don't have an issue,
Would you say like the ashwagandha?
probably ashwagandha, because everyone deals with stress. You know, it's just a good one. Yeah.
Even over like a turmeric or something like that?
Yeah, turmeric is good, but I don't know, it's not my top favorite. Like, dealing with your liver, then ashwagandha are probably my top two. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't have anything pressing going on, you know, those things will help no matter what. We can all use stress support, right?
Is it dandelion leaves or
Root.
root?
You can do the leaves, like they're really good fresh in a salad this time of year because they're just starting and they're not bitter. So if you get the leaves young, they make a pretty tasty salad. And they do have some liver cleansing benefits, but the root is typically what I suggest to people to use.
Except our lawns just got sprayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't.
Yeah, go out in the countryside, in the woods, and avoid the chemicals.
Rent, we have no say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find, Marissa, increasing people, insulin seems to be the hormone of avoidance at all costs in terms of the body, and the number of times it gets secreted from the pancreas. Do you find that to be something you run into quite a bit?
Yeah.
'Cause we do here a lot.
Yeah.
And that's insulin resistance, it's almost like Lustig says, diabetes is a symptom, not the disease.
Yeah. So you have type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is an autoimmune response where your immune system is killing off your pancreas.
Yeah.
And it can happen quickly or it can happen slowly. It tends to happen in younger people. Type 2 is basically like adrenal fatigue only for your pancreas. Think of it as pancreas fatigue. You've lived a life where you've taxed your pancreas and now it's just tired and it's done and it wants a break and doesn't want to do anything. So how can you help it?
Never heard that before.
Yeah. So how can you help it? Well, stop putting toxins in. Yeah. Avoid the sugars. Don't overdo the sugars. Don't overdo the carbohydrates. And then juniper berries are good for the pancreas. There's also an insulin plant that I just learned about. I'd never learned about that herb, but it's supposed to help. Insulin plant.
Insulin plant.
But juniper berries, so it's not the juniper trees that we have here. It's the juniper trees that grow out west. Juniper monosperma is the Latin name, so that's important because if you take juniper berries here, it's going to cleanse your kidneys and make you go to the bathroom a lot and probably not have a lot of effect on your pancreas. But if you do the juniper monosperma, then that supports your pancreas, whether it's hypoglycemia or high blood sugar. So it works both ways. So that's kind of why I fell in love with herbs, is because no matter what's wrong with the organ, the herb helps. So if it's over-functioning, it helps. If it's under-functioning, it helps. It's kind of like, it's just the food that it needs, right? Brings it into balance, yeah. So I don't have to know, like when clients come into me and they say, well, I went to my doctor and he said, I have cirrhosis of the liver. Well, I don't have to know that. I just have to know you're struggling with your liver. What can we do to help your liver? My blood sugar's out of balance. What can we do to help your blood sugar? Yeah. My stress level's out of balance. This is what we can do. So it brings it into balance, whether it's too much or too little. So that's kind of why I fell in love with herbs. It's so simple.
It's so natural then.
And so natural, yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah. And like herbs have been around forever. Since the beginning of time. The first pharmacy was herbs in Mediterranean area. So they've been around forever, they've been studied forever, they've been used forever. And so they have a long history, and you can find more books on these herbs than you can on the medicine that's in your medicine cabinet. Their benefits and how the case studies of how they help people. So,
do we have any like indigenous people here in Iowa that are experts in that? Kind of like Essiac formula, and the herbal cleanser we have was created by a medicine woman in the Ojibwa tribe in Canada. That's how she put it all together. She was an herbalist, right, in the tribe.
yeah.
Do we have anybody like that did you get exposed to, or that you meet, or?
I don't know of anybody.
Robin and I were this weekend with a Zuni farmer from New Mexico.
Okay.
And you could just tell this guy knows how to be healthy.
Yeah.
and everything is, he grows everything he has, and,
Yeah.
it would, and we need those people too.
Yeah.
Right? We've, bypassed them for so long,
Yeah.
including genocide, but it's, they just know a lot, right? Their tradition passes down incredible medicine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Incredible medicine, incredible healthy lifestyles. Yeah.
But you don't know anybody.
I don't know
around.
anybody.
Okay.
She's standing right in front of you.
Yeah.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
I wanted her to be a Native American for a
Well,
second.
you don't have to.
I have a little bit of Native American blood.
All right.
Yeah.
You don't have to be.
Yeah. No, I don't know anybody. I wish I did. It'd be fun to
Yeah, that's
just have somebody to call and say, "Hey, what about this?"
Like a mentor.
Yeah, kind of a mentor. Just I don't know. It's interesting the different people that I come in contact with and how everyone has their own little niche and what they know, and yeah.
cool.
I lived in Cedar Rapids before moving here 7 years ago, or whatever. Anyway, I worked with an herbalist there,
Yeah.
and
Is that a
Trilby.
Trilby? Yeah.
Yeah. And she had a tincture for sinus, and I swore by it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the main sinuses, it was the other sinuses.
Yep.
And if I started feeling sick, or if I knew it was a sinus issue, if I start taking that right away,
Yeah.
it went away.
Yeah.
So, do you know which one it was, like the herb was? Or
I
isn't it
can't, I don't think any of it, maybe skullcap is it. I meant to bring that to you because I wanted to show you that.
Yeah. That'd be interesting because Dr. Christopher has a sinus plus formula. Be interesting to see if they're the same. Or
Yeah,
Herbs.
I
Mhm.
can't remember what's in it. Skullcap possibly.
Yeah.
There's some, 5 herbs in it, I think.
yeah. Pretty cool.
Any other questions? No? Marissa, thank you for
Guys, for coming.
coming down here.
You have good questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
If you guys have any other questions